This is Talking Foreign Policy, a critical look at Canada's role abroad, and I am Yves Engler. Today, we are talking about Canadian politicians encouraging violence against Iran. This week, Defense Minister Blair said it would be, quote, appropriate for Israel to bomb Iranian oil facilities. Taking the incitement to violence one step further, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said, quote, I think the idea of allowing a genocidal, theocratic, unstable dictatorship that is desperate to avoid being overthrown by its own people to develop nuclear weapons is about the most dangerous and irresponsible thing that the world could ever allow. If Israel were to stop that genocidal, theocratic, unstable government from acquiring nuclear weapons, it would be a gift by the Jewish state to humanity. So Pierre Poilievre is explicitly responding to questions where journalists say that US President Joe Biden doesn't support attacking Iranian nuclear facilities by doubling down, saying, yes, he supports Israel attacking Iranian nuclear facilities. So in the context of course, a growing regional war, I thought we would sit down and discuss this matter of Canada-Iranian relations, Canada inciting violence against Iran, with the president of the Iranian Canadian Congress, Saideh Khadir, who is also a Montreal physician. First of all, thanks a lot for coming on to Talking Foreign Policy.
Thanks for your invitation, Yves.
What's your reaction to these Canadian politicians basically calling for Israel to wage war or bomb, attack Iran?
Well, is it me or, the usual traditions and policy of Canada, as I see myself as a Canadian, it's really not in the core of our core value politics, which is stability, peace. It's not even patriotic. I mean, asking a country that is being accused of genocide and war crimes at the moment, actively since a year, to attack another country in that region, a legitimate sovereign country in that region, advocating for war in already a torn region from war and violence, where everybody is seeking peace, even Joe Biden. And these people, I mean, I don't understand this nonsense. Furthermore, Iran is part of the non-proliferative of nuclear weapons treaty and has respected it up until now. But as of never, Israel hasn't even adhered to that organization. This possible war on Iran would be disastrous. I mean, as an Iranian, I'm outraged to what is happening in Gaza and Lebanon, and seeing that all out in a 90 million people country is really irresponsible. It will cost lives of millions of people, displace millions of people, create waves of refugees towards, other countries, towards the West, and make a crash down of the world economy. So what do we have to gain of such war? What are our politicians thinking? And under which circumstances they say these things? I mean, Blair says something and it's contrary in the same day. It says we shouldn't attack, then it says we attack. And attacking these sources of, I mean, the nuclear energy in Iran is civil, and the energy regions are for, I mean, it's for the services, the public services of that country. So it is considered a crime against humanity to attack that. And politicians are advocating for this. It's understandable.
Yeah, it does seem pretty remarkable. It seems pretty remarkable that they would be, after a year of incredible violence in Gaza, increasing violence by Israel in Lebanon, they would want another country to be faced with more Israeli violence. It's pretty remarkable to see Canadian politicians promote that. What's your sense of, so there seems to be some forces, like the National Post is saying that Israel attacking Iran, it would remake the Middle East, and we're seeing some Israeli politicians and others that seem to see this in a kind of positive light of changing the Middle East, destroying the axis of resistance. We have the son of the former Shah that was deposed in 1979. He's put out a video a few days ago, kind of seems to be sort of celebrating, hoping for Israel to attack and maybe the US to join in the war. And I guess he may see this as his way to power, to return to the throne, if you like. We know that there's some Canadian, Pierre Poilievre met with the former Shah, I guess, a bit over a year ago. And so is that, like, do you see that there's forces obviously within the Iranian community, be it in the US or elsewhere outside of the country, that see this as sort of an opportunity to, get back in power or to take power? What's your sort of assessment of that kind of context, and how the Iranian community in Canada kind of fits in with that outlook?
Okay, so the Iranian opposition does not have any leader, and that's what makes it very weak. They're very divided. Many American politicians and military men have or can be quoted on that they have no true leadership. The only person that looks like a leader is this, by tradition, is this person, Reza Pahlavi, which is the son of the former Shah. Yes, there are people who sort of idealize them because there has been a lot of propaganda through Persian-speaking media, big investment into, I don't think any country has been that invested into, cognitive dissonance, hybrid war than Iran in the past years, where there's like 5 type of CNN Persian-speaking. There's more media outside Iran than inside Iran, and people are bombarded by those media. It can be also attributed to a little bit of weakness in Iranian media into presenting, the being like more watched by people. This is something, a critique that we can make, but really Reza Pahlavi is a very weak person. I don't even think, he says, he has said many times that his life is in the US, that his family is there, his friend is there, that he doesn't really want to go to Iran, that he's not really sure he wants to be the leader. So, but because there's the absence of leader, well, the Israel or, these warmongering people to present an alternative to what they want to do as a regime change, they present him. But I don't even think they count on him. They just want it as a front. And he's receiving budget, so he goes. But it's I'm not sure that he really wants to be a leader. He just wants to, I think, collect the budgets, and some people need him in the West, and that's about it.
So what's your assessment of, like, the Canadian? I know the community is divided. There's obviously those who don't like the government of Iran. There's those who don't like Canada's aggressive kind of policies. What's your sort of sense of the Iranian community, the division on that? And also, I guess, maybe a little bit about like the liberals, because the liberals, interesting enough, they were, of course, elected in 2015, and Trudeau said he was going to restart diplomatic relations with Iran. And then he kind of started pursuing that pathway. And the Israel lobby basically blocked that with Anthony Housefather and Michael Levitt in the caucus of the Liberal Party, working against restarting diplomatic relations. And obviously there's lots of this, relations have deteriorated a lot over the years since early 2020. But so what's your sort of assessment of where the Iranian Canadian community is on a possible and further Israeli attack, and like some of the divisions there, and kind of how that fits into Liberal Party position on Iran, going back, I guess, over close to a decade now?
Yes, of course. So you're correct into saying that there's strong lobbies who didn't permit Trudeau to hold his promise, so he backed off. And this is, I believe the same. We believe the same also. So because Iranian Canadian Congress in a few years ago made through his leader parliamentary petition that gathered 16,000 signatures to open the embassy. I mean, Iranians are suffering from lack of services. They give birth, they have deaths in their family, they have relatives, parents that they need to sort of invite sometimes for different reasons. And the process is long and costly because they have to go in third party countries for anything. And Canada cannot have its role either. It's not in the economic interest of Canada and diplomatic interest. This policy of closing the embassy, I mean, I think except United States, nobody has shut down. And really it's Iran who Iran doesn't have any relations with Israel and United States, but it's the only country. I mean, UK is open, France, Italy, everybody is embassy is open. It just shows you how invested we are by in our politics by lobbies. Because I don't know if you read the book, one of the books of Yaakov Rapkin, but he has a chapter on United Against Nuclear Iran that was founded in 2006 by Irving Cutler and his friend, all-time friend, Alan Dershowitz. And they, for the first time, started this, narrative of harsh position towards Iran. So it was diplomatic relations, sanctions, and putting IRCG on the terrorist list. So this was first, mentioned by them. And how does it come gradually in the mouth of politicians and even of some members of the diaspora? Well, it's by repetitious propaganda. I mean, who would think that more responsive government in Iran would be created with closing the embassy or putting IRCG? What is the logic or the science behind that? Nothing. It's just rhetoric.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you pointed out Irwin Cotler. Irwin Cotler, of course, started the Iran Accountability Week on Parliament Hill for many years, where it was basically trying to engender hostility towards Iran, bring in sanctions. He was also considered to be a major player in getting the MEK delisted. The MEK, of course, sided with Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s. It's been kind of viewed as a cult-like group, and it's involved in helping Israel in assassinations, assassinating Iranian scientists, or it's, according to U.S. media, NBC reported that back a decade ago. So Irwin Cotler has been a big player in the kind of anti-Iran policy, but with regards to the Iranian community, there is division. I mean, I think it was on the 3 weekends ago in Montreal, I saw a protest with the Women Life Freedom protest, and so. What's your sense of that in terms of how much that movement seems to have very much weakened? I feel like it got a lot of public support, but I'm assuming what's happening with Gaza has changed that. Like the Iranian community vis-a-vis Gaza, how is that? Because there's some forces within the Iranian community are quite openly allying with Zionist forces. I have a hard time believing that there's many people in Iran that actually support what Israel is doing in Gaza. So it seems quite obvious to me that would be a very marginalizing position to take. But you're seeing that play out here, and some forces, I guess, their position is just overthrow the Iranian government no matter what. Even if it leads to total chaos, that's just good by definition. That seems like a pretty anti-Iranian position to take, to my mind. But yeah, so how does that kind of play out within your perception of Iranian Canadian kind of forces?
Okay, so you know unfortunately Iranian Canadian community has a lot of diversified opinion stance or opinions, and I say unfortunately because we are under a big propaganda machine. I mean, there's billions invested in these TVs that are highly financed, you know, that they look like really attractive, like a CNN type of, and they repeatedly, you know, are going to create with different, I don't know how, rhetoric, they're going to build opinion, you know. But in the end of the day, I think Iranians are divided concerning inside politics, but no sound, intelligent Iranian can, you know, invite such violence that we've seen on the part of Israel to Iran. So they are against foreign intervention and foreign attack, military attack. But there is this mentality, you know, interventionism that has been supported by Bernard-Henri Lévy and Bernard Kouchner, you know, even some leftist intellectuals, they think they're very, you know, sophisticated and have long vision, and they want to stay in Montreal, you know, drink their coffee, go to one demonstration a month, and NATO and Israel to do the job for them, you know, and they have also approved the Iraq invasion. So this type of mentality does exist, but I don't think it's representative of what is the interest of Iranians. And there are internal also, a lot of it is because of some neoliberal economic policies, increased by sanctions that cripple down the economy of Iran and create a lot of social disturbances, you know, difference between classes. And this is the main issue right now, the neoliberalism inside Iran and the sanctions that are unprecedented. I mean, no country would survive such sanctions. I'm just amazed how it's still, you know, nothing is really happening, and nothing is really seriously happening, and the opposition is very divided. I mean, people are opposed, but they can't make at the end of the day, they can't have a meeting. After 2 meetings, they're going to divide and they're going to fight, and so it's not grassroots. And Gray Zone has, I don't know if you read one of the latest publications of Gray Zones about some emails and evidences that CIA had a role in the Mahsa Amini movement. I mean, that's why there was a failure of this movement, because it was recuperated, the inside movement of women concerning more freedom of, you know, clothes was recuperated by an international, you know, Orange Revolution attempt that failed.
One of the things that I think where you point out about the Iranian Canadian community getting kind of absorbed into believing the propaganda of the West, one of the things that's really stark in this is that you see, like Pierre Poilievre talks about dictatorial regime and stuff like that. The notion that Canada cares about democracy in Iran is really belied by the facts, right? So it's not discussed much, but Canada helped the US and UK overthrow Mossadegh in 1953, right? We supported the oil embargo. We began diplomatic relations right after the ouster of the first elected leader, and then we backed the Shah for 25 years, and Canadian officials were providing security assistance through the worst of the repression of the Shah in the 1970s. So the notion that Canada's interest in Iran is around democracy is just not based in reality. And I think that's something that is very few Canadians know that history, and including Iranian Canadians. And so they kind of they get absorbed into believing the sort of U.S. Canadian government line. To me, it seems like the support of Canada in the horrors in Gaza makes it pretty hard to believe that they're really sort of humanistic in their interest. Maybe just to conclude, what's your kind of call for the Canadian government? I'm assuming, obviously, calling for them not to support Israel bombing Iran, but more generally in terms of the call on Canadian policy towards Iran.
Well, we've written to Bill Blair about questioning him. Why in the morning he says we shouldn't do anything that will create escalation, and in the afternoon he says that the oil facilities, which is civil energy, which is crime against humanity, to happen on the part of Israel towards Iran to be hit. So we asked for clarifications and we haven't had any response. It's been 8 days. So we're going to publicize that letter. We have a letter ready for Pierre Poilievre. What I'm concerned about as this person is really not fit for his position. I mean, what is this stance? It's like completely, like it's a neocon, Christian Zionist type of, affirmation to say it's going to save humanity to, help Israel go to war against a sovereign country. I mean, anyways, c'est du n'importe quoi, comme on dit in French. So we're gonna write a letter to him and make it public right away. And our stance with Canadian politicians is to lean for a ceasefire in Palestine, the resolution of this incredible genocide since 70 years, the stopping of any escalation towards an all-out war, diplomatic relation with Iran. To talk with a country is like basic, to have an embassy and diplomatic relation. It's a right of the 19th century. You can, even people like right now, we are in war officially with Russia. Is the embassy closed? No. There's war between English and French, and the embassy is open. It's just to talk. It's just basic, human sense to talk. So we are for a diplomatic relation. We think even if Canada wants more democracy in Iran, which I don't believe we can do anything because we haven't done anything for Iraq, Libya, or Afghanistan. So it's something that Iranians can do from inside in a peaceful environment. No democracy is brought with bombs and is injected from outside. It has to arise from a relatively peaceful and not democratic, economic stability in a country. So I don't believe in that rhetoric of democracy and intervention. So we're against this. And we are so for the delisting what is the use of putting IRCG on the list of terrorists? It's just another Irving Cutler politics, being materialized, but doesn't bring any use. I don't even think it's it's really in concordance with international law. I mean, the IRCG is a branch of the military system in Iran that supports the integrity of the country's borders. How can it be, if you put it on a terrorist list, it's as if you're declaring war. So you can technically attack any assets of Iran and say that it's IRCG, so even the United States doesn't really, it's like more a principle thing. It doesn't apply it. And the United States has a very aggressive politics with Iran. I don't see why Canada should have that aggressivity. It doesn't need to. It never did have this type of politics. So we were against putting IRCG on the terrorist list. And basically, we encourage peace in the Middle East, de-escalation, and diplomacy with Iran.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on Talking Foreign Policy. Saideh Khadir, President of the Iranian Canadian Congress. Unfortunately, there's probably going to be more developments on this file in coming weeks and months, so maybe we'll have a future discussion. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you, Yves, and I always learn on many subjects of Canadian foreign policies, including from Iran, from you. So thank you for your coverage and work.
Thank you.